Welcome to the American Railroading Podcast, brought to you by the Revolution Rail Group, live from the great state of Texas. Join us as we educate, entertain, and explore the world of American railroading. Here's your host, industry veteran, Don Walsh.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the American Railroading Podcast. I am your host, Don Walsh, President and CEO of the Revolution Rail Group. We are the anchor sponsor for the American Railroading Podcast. We provide consulting and brokering services to the railcar industry. So if you need any kind of help, whether it's merger and acquisition consulting, process flow analysis, market analysis, we can help you with that. If you need any help with brokering, whether it's buying, selling, leasing, or subleasing of railcars, we can help you with that as well. You can reach out to us today at 844-455-3434 or info@therevolutionrailgroup.com. You can also check out our full suite of services on our website at therevolutionrailgroup.com. So hopefully everybody had a wonderful Mother's Day. Even if you weren't a mother, hopefully you had a great Mother's Day and talked to your mom or sent your mom some flowers or something. I was able to talk to my mom all the way out in the Midwest where it was cold, unbelievable. It was 80 something degrees here. It was 40 degrees there. But anyway, she had a great Mother's Day. Hopefully you all did as well. And also Memorial Day will have happened by the time we air by a few days. So hopefully you had a wonderful Memorial Day also. Gosh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm just so flabbergasted by the fact that we're still in the top 10% of all podcasts. I lost myself for a moment there, but we are still in the top 10% in the world for all podcasts. Right, Producer John?
That's right.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a feat.
It is. It's 2 feet, actually. It's unbelievable. So thank you all. That is thanks to you that we're doing so darn good and all your downloads and all your shares. Please continue to do that. We've now been downloaded in 49 countries around the world and on 36 different podcast platforms. Apple Podcast is number 1, Spotify is number 2. And for all-time downloads, the US is still number 1 by a long shot, like 91% or so. Canada is number 2, Australia is number 3. Again, that's all-time. And then for the last 30 days, Canada, where are you? The Netherlands has come in and just taken over second place by a lot. So thank you to everybody in the Netherlands. And then we've got Australia and the UK tied for 3rd. So Canada, start sharing, start downloading, sharing with everyone that you know. Hello to our friends in Costa Rica, Japan, and Ireland. So thank you all for following us and subscribing to us. Please continue to download, continue to share, subscribe, and leave us reviews. So I know I say it every episode, but reviews are so important to us, especially 5-star reviews. The more reviews we get, the more 5-star reviews we get, the more it pushes us out into the interwebs, as they say. So Apple is a good place to do that. Spotify, anywhere you listen to us, including on our website, you can go to our reviews tab and leave us a review there as well. So you can also, if you like what you've heard on our podcast, you can buy us a cup of coffee. So we like coffee. I did have some coffee before this. So if I start getting too jittery, just let me know, Producer John. Just
will do.
Throw something at me.
Hose you down.
Yeah, I guess I might need it. But honestly, you can buy us a little cup of coffee. It's like leaving us a gratuity. So you can go to our website at AmericanRailroading.net. Click on the little yellow coffee cup in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. You can buy us 1 cup, 3 cups, 5 cups, or however many cups of coffee you would like. And it's like leaving us a tip for doing a good job. So thank you for those of you that have and those of you that will. Don't forget, we have our own YouTube channel as well. So you can watch us on our videos on our website at AmericanRailroading.net and just click on the videos tab. Or you can go to our YouTube channel at YouTube at American Railroading Podcast. Our subscriptions, by the way, have gone up 10% in the last 30 days. So thank you for that.
Woo-hoo.
We love that. Maybe our new studio has something to do with that.
Absolutely.
We've added some new things as well. So if I sound a little different, we got a new mic in studio for me. Producer John's been kind enough to let me use his in the past. So I've got my own now, and I mirrored it after a couple of podcasters that I really enjoy. And I mentioned Mike Rowe before, and the Mike Rowe Works podcast and different podcasts that he has. So Mike, if you're listening, thank you. I borrowed your idea. So y'all have to let me know how I sound. And also we're using our first 4K camera today. So those of you that are watching on the YouTube channel, let us know how it looks. And we've added some different stuff in the studio, and we're going to continue to do that as we move forward and grow. So be sure to check out our online store. So the online store, you can go to our website, and again, you can go to AmericanRailroading.net, click on the store tab, and shop to your heart's desire. We have everything in there, hats and hoodies and t-shirts, and we also have challenge coins. So for those of you that aren't aware, I created some challenge coins with friends of mine in Dallas that are specifically to represent those that are veterans in the railroad industry, of which there is a bunch. So when you purchase those challenge coins, a portion of the sales, the proceeds from the sales will go to our friends at Boots for Troops here in Magnolia, Texas. We are continuing to accept podcast sponsorships. So sponsorships really help us do what we do. right? It's not advertisements, although you do get advertising out of a sponsorship, but it is a sponsorship like any other, like if you were to sponsor a conference or something like that. It helps us to do what we do and continue to grow and do different, more exciting things. Like we're going to be traveling some this year. We're going to be doing some remote broadcasts, which is going to be fun. And like the new mics and different things that we're doing and continuing to expand. So if you're interested in doing a sponsorship and you like what we're doing, we have a platinum sponsorship, gold sponsorship, silver sponsorships, all available right now. So you can check us out and reach out to us at marketing@americanrailroading.net. Again, that's marketing@americanrailroading.net. We'd be glad to send you information on all the different podcast sponsorships available. So our first 2 seasons, we've talked about various aspects of safety and ways that we can improve upon it, including railcar inspections, which is something I started out with in the very beginning of my time in the industry, which I won't say how long ago it was, but it was a really long time ago when I was like 10. Okay, not quite that young, but I was young. And today's a continuation of our Tech Talk series. I'm really excited to talk to our guest today about the new ways in which AI is being used to inspect rail cars while they're moving at full speed, as a matter of fact, which I never thought I would see that day. I could never catch up to one fast enough to do that. So thank God for AI, right? Well, our guest for today is Mr. Jeff Necciai. Jeff, did I do that right? Was I good there?
Yes, you did it perfect.
Awesome.
That's very good.
I practiced a lot. So Jeff is Chief Technology Officer for Duos Technologies based in Jacksonville, Florida. As CTO of Duos Technologies, Mr. Necciai has nearly 30 years of experience in developing and delivering value-driven technology solutions across a wide range of industries. In addition to managing the company's product and solutions roadmap, he oversees multiple collaborative technology teams that develop the company's unique and value-focused solutions. Prior to joining Duos, Jeff served as the Chief Technology Officer at Necciai product teams to develop and deliver, Necciai technology. There we go. Where he cultivated and led high-performing cross-functional product teams to develop and deliver comprehensive gate automation solutions to rail and marine terminal customers. Jeff was responsible for the solution design and software architecture for many of the company's innovations, including an advanced OCR and imaging solution, proprietary point-to-point voice-over internet protocol, integrated smart outdoor IP-based call boxes, and a comprehensive human-assisted security and surveillance platform. In 2001, Jeff co-founded and served as lead systems architect for Solution Dynamics, which developed remote digital video surveillance products for institutional customers. Jeff is listed on several technology-based patents and has contributed to articles and publications such as American Shipper, World Cargo News, and the Journal of Commerce. Jeff holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration from Clarion University of Pennsylvania. I'm sure I missed something in there, Jeff, because there was just so much that you've accomplished in your career, which is unreal.
Oh, it's been a long time.
Right? Yeah. Hey, nothing wrong with that. And with that, I say welcome to the American Railroading Podcast.
Thank you, Don. Great to be here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So I'll start out by asking a really basic question, but it's one I'm really curious about. So what made you decide to get into rail in the first place?
Actually, I think rail kind of pulled me in. So in around 2004, I went to work for a company called Necciai, as you just mentioned. But before that, I was working with Sealand. I don't know, obviously familiar with Sealand, but kind of matriculated over to Necciai. And with Necciai, we were doing intermodal, and a lot of our customers, most of our customers, as a matter of fact, were railroads. The same customers I have today, I had on the intermodal side for the gate systems. So it was just kind of a natural kind of shift.
Very good. And what can you tell us about some of the history between Duos Technologies and how the company began?
Yeah, actually, the company has a very long history. It's what I like to call, because it's so exciting in the technology what we do. It's kind of like the world's oldest startup. They've actually been around for about 24, 25 years. We've been around, but we've done a lot of things in that time span. The company has done everything from ash recycling and property management and building systems for property management and so forth. And it wasn't, I think it was around 2014 or 2015, the company got into surveillance for a couple of the railroads. and that grew into what we're talking about today, Don. Inspection and using visualization, remote visualization, and AI for inspection. So we've done a few things along the way, all technology based, but it's been quite a while.
So what would you say is the core function of the company at this point? Because it has done so much over 25 or so years.
Yeah. So the core function of the company, I like to. We're trying. Actually, I'll give you a piece of news. We're trying to figure out what the tagline should be, because if you notice, we have quite a few, because it comes from history and what it is that we're doing. So what I'm voting for is intelligence in motion. And that is really what we're looking at. It's not just AI, but again, it's remote visualization, but it's everything in motion. A couple of years ago, we had several meetings with a major airline, a major commercial airline, for example, and we would like to bring the same kind of technology we brought to the Class 1 railroads to commercial airlines. Of course, a lot different, but achieves kind of the same thing. So that's really what the company is. Our core technology is, applying artificial intelligence and visualization to things that move.
Well, that perfectly leads me to my next question, because the railroad industry isn't the only industry you're currently involved with. So you also do things like commercial and industrial solutions. Can you tell us a little bit about that area of the business?
Yeah, I mean, we've done it. It kind of it's sort of semi-related to the same technology. So, for example, in the past, we've done platform security, things like that for transportation platforms for subways and so forth. And there's just been little projects that we've done with certain agencies, state as well as other government agencies and the military, as you suggested or that you mentioned before, I believe.
I did. And I think it's really neat, because I know we can't get into it, but there are government agencies you do provide intelligence solutions for. And so we'll leave it there. But I think it's really cool that you do that. And I've got friends involved in the government that probably utilize it. So we can't talk about it, but I'll ask them on the side.
I may be able to hint at some things later.
Sure.
As we get more into technology.
Okay.
But, yes.
Very good. Well, hey, I think it's neat. I've always loved technology, so I think that's great. And then on the website, it also talks about automated logistics information systems, which helps to fast track distribution centers throughout automation or through automation, I should say, technology and integration. So our last episode was on supply chain. So I just thought it was a perfect opportunity to at least mention this, that I believe you guys created some time ago. So can you tell us a little bit about that system?
Sure. It's ALICE for short. And basically, it's targeted to distribution centers, as you mentioned, right? So distribution centers for large retailers. And we have a few of those under our belt. And really, it's automating that, basically the gate transaction, right? It's automating the gate transaction. It's still kind of focused on things that move, but they kind of move and stop for a while and go forward again, right? But there's a lot of information being collected. In this case, it's being collected in an automated fashion from the container, from the trailer, from the bill of lading. It's all being put together to create a logical transaction for the transportation management system. So what used to take maybe, 6, 7, sometimes 10 minutes worth of check-in now takes, 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds. So we're very proud of it.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So this would be used like in an intermodal type of situation then with containers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is great. Yeah. And that also probably would help to track the empties, I would guess, because, people are always looking for empties.
Yeah, not so much with my current, not with this current solution, but in my last position with Nascent, obviously it helped empties a lot, because there a lot of the ports, for example, a lot of the marine terminals, they don't want to store empties anymore anyway, so they kind of put them off to a lot on the side. Same thing with chassis; they're trying to get chassis out of their out of their property. Mm-hmm. So the systems do help with that, but on the trailer side, the empties probably aren't as big of a problem, but
yeah, and sometimes people seem to hoard them. We talked about that in our last episode as well. So you have the company is Duos Technologies Group, which is the main company, and then you've got and then you're traded on the Nasdaq, by the way, which I think is really neat. So it's a good sized company. Its wholly owned subsidiaries are Duos Technologies Incorporated and Edge AI Inc. So obviously there's a difference between the two. So what are the major differences or similarities? Maybe some of the overlapping qualities of both companies.
Yeah, Duos Technologies is our kind of our main focus, and I shouldn't say main, but it was the one that was there. For example, when I started with the company 5 years ago, the Duos Edge AI is our entry. And I'm going to go back to that in a moment because it's very important. It's our entry into the edge data center business, which is a little bit different. Now, you might ask, well, why would we do that? And it's a new business for us. It's a new business unit for us. But the reason we would do that is we've actually been doing edge data centers. We've been developing edge data centers since about 2016 with the very first Railcar Inspection Portal. Because as hopefully we'll talk about later, is all of that technology is packed into an edge data center that sits trackside. So when when the opportunity came along to actually develop a business unit, with something that we already have expertise in, Duos Edge AI was actually born. And what I might mention is we have a gentleman by the name of Doug Recker, who happens to be president. He was named president of Duos Edge AI. Lots of experience in data centers, traditional as well as edge data centers. So we're real happy to have him aboard, and it's doing fantastic.
That's great. And you also got other cool news. So this was just this week. Actually, it was announced on, the week that we're recording here. So it was just announced earlier this week that Duos Edge AI is to launch an edge data center here in Victoria, Texas, which is about 2 hours from our studio here, in a strategic partnership with Region 3 Education Service Center. So can you tell us a little bit about that venture?
Yeah. I mean, it follows the line of 2 or 3 of our first edge data centers that are kind of landing there. I think we got Region 16 as well, and we got Region 3 as you mentioned most recently, and there's more on the way. So certainly keep your eyes open for those press releases. But remember, the focus of the edge data center obviously is to to bring that processing power and bring that technology as close to the point of consumption as possible. And so what it does from a high level is it kind of services generally underserved communities, things like that. And certainly through the schools, it makes a lot of sense. So we're real happy to have those folks and those, school systems in Texas, as really good partners, fantastic folks. And we look forward to doing a lot more business with them.
So I don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole because we'll get into some of this more later, but in what way are you interacting with the schools? I'm really curious about that. So how does the school district take advantage of something like that?
Sure. The school district, obviously school districts, they have a data center, but it's a brick and mortar data center. So instead of backhauling all that information from the various schools and the nearby communities that they have, back to that edge data center, it just makes sense to do a lot of that processing and storage, like I said, close to the point of consumption. And, that's one of the big things. When we talk about edge data centers kind of solving not underprivileged, but underserved communities, in a lot of rural communities, there's not a lot of bandwidth, right? There's not a lot of ways to get to the internet, for example, right? Or if there is, they're overly expensive. Placing an edge data center in some of those locations actually opens up that opportunity to the community in conjunction with the school district. So that's really how that business model is working.
That's really neat. I didn't know you guys did that. That is so cool. Well, thank you for doing that. I know the communities certainly appreciate that. And my family, I have family that lives in very rural areas where internet's extremely challenging to get to. So yeah, that's wonderful. Also announced recently, Duos Technology appoints retired Brigadier General Craig Nixon as chairman of the board of directors. So he's a decorated special operations veteran with over 29 years of military service, including 7 tours of duty in elite units such as the 75th Ranger Regiment and the Joint Special Operations Commander, JSOC. So I bring that up not only because I think it's neat, but also because those that have followed me for a while know I'm a big supporter of our veterans. I'm a chairman with the Boots for Troops here in Magnolia, Texas /Tomball, Texas. So I just want to say thank you to Brigadier General Craig Nixon for your service, and a little warning for all of you that work for him, you better stay in line, because I'm guessing he could still put his boot to somebody to get him moving, right? As a Brigadier General.
Absolutely. Mr. Nixon served on our board for quite some time now, and I will have to tell you, I've probably been yelled at by him more than once.
Motivated by.
In line.
Yeah, not yelled at, motivated by. I can only imagine. Well, hey, I want to take just a moment here and recognize our gold sponsor, EnviroServe. EnviroServe is America's premier provider of comprehensive, reliable, effective, and eco-friendly environmental solutions for the rail industry. Their rail services include mobile railcar cleaning, flaring, interior blasting and transloading, removal and replacement of tank car service equipment, and leak testing, complete HAZ and non-HAZ waste handling, management, remediation, and disposal services, 24/7 emergency spill response, and more. To learn more, please visit their website at www.enviroserve.com. Okay, well, let's get into the rail stuff, the fun stuff. So I've talked about on previous episodes how it was inspecting rail cars when I started out, and I'm laughing at myself, really, honestly, because one, I've been around that long, but I've mentioned it I think it was our first episode, maybe the second, where I talked about my inspection history, how this all started out for me. So came from a very blue collar family where I was very hands-on with construction and working on cars and all that kind of thing, especially working on cars, dealing with nuts and bolts and mechanical stuff. I figured inspecting rail cars would be easy. And so this was pen and paper. We didn't have iPads or any of that. I mean, they were around, but we couldn't afford them. And so it was literally just me and a pad of paper, and the inspector that was training me gave me the pad and the pen or pencil, I suppose it was, in case I made mistakes, to go out and inspect this hopper car. And I went out there and I came back with a blank sheet of paper, said, "It looks great." And he just stared at me and grunted. He wouldn't even give me a word. It was just a grunt, and walked out there, came back in about an hour with 4 pages worth, condemnable items. So it really showed me I knew absolutely nothing, and it's not that easy. And I had a lot to learn, which I did, thankfully, with his help. But it's just come such a long way with technology nowadays. And I'm a dork for technology. I was writing code for games at 10 years old. It was basic stuff, but I've always enjoyed technology. And early in my career, I was one of the first plant managers to invest in what they call a boroscope, to do tank car regulatory compliance inspections for stub sills and things like that. And I was also involved with my quality assurance manager at one of the previous companies as a beta tester for the first ever, what I would call cradle to grave shop systems that you could actually go into the system and have it. There were usually 4 systems you had to get through to do the arrival of the car at a repair shop, and then the inspection of the car, and then the estimate to send to a customer, and then the inventory ordering, which wasn't real time. So you never really knew if you had it or not. And so this was the first system that connected all of them together in real time with iPads, intrinsically safe iPads you could use in the field. So I've seen it all, and I've seen how far technology has come. But speaking of railcar inspection specifically, I've always had to do them by walking up and down a train, which they still do today, through snow and ice and mud and rain. And I used to use a little tape recorder when it was raining out so that I didn't get my papers all wet. Hey, it worked. Chest high weeds, you name it. And they're not always in ideal areas, so you're slipping and falling trying to look at stuff. But Duos Technologies has created a really pretty neat system to inspect rail cars while they're moving at full speed, which I honestly never thought I would see the day that would happen. So I really want to get into that with you. It's a system that you've created called Railcar Inspection Portal, or RIP, which is really mind-blowing to someone like me who has seen it literally start out with pencil and paper to this. It's come a long, long way. So according to your website, the Railcar Inspection Portal is a modular, intelligent visualization system that provides real-time 360-degree imaging as the train is moving at high speeds. And it can be used for a variety of inspection criteria on the railroad main lines or in various types of rail yards. So we'll get into the details of exactly what the system does in great detail, granular detail here in just a moment, like the modules and the AI detection and stuff like that. So, but for now, if you can just start out by telling us essentially what your system physically is, and how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the system is obviously a lot of technology. It's hardware and software. Let's talk about the hardware for a moment. We do use a lot of cameras, as you can imagine, right? We use a combination of line scan cameras and area scan cameras. And a line scan camera, for those in your audience might not be familiar with what that is. It's a special kind of camera with a special kind of sensor in it that basically just takes one line of pixels, if you can imagine that, from the top to the bottom. So it acts like a scanner. If you're copying a document on a scanner, you know how the camera kind of, you see the camera and the light go across the document. It scans it basically one line at a time. That's what these cameras do. And what we do with those lines is we stitch them together in software, and we make these big panoramas of the rail car. That's the top, the sides, and even the undercarriage. And so that's the 360 degree all around view of the rail car. So they're very high detailed and very it's kind of high resolution and very, very crisp images. What's important, though, the thing that we always forget, we were always talking about the camera, but there's lighting. The fundamentals of photography really haven't changed since the late 1800s, right? You still have the need for light when you're taking an image, and there's the sensitivity to the recording medium. In this case, it's a sensor, and that sensitivity obviously can be set. And then you have the time, which you allow light to hit that medium. So it's what photographers call, the exposure triangle. We won't get into photography, a different episode, I'm sure. But anyway, we have to take all that into account. So a lot of our work has to do with providing light in areas which really honestly don't normally have it, right? Like under the train. You mentioned under the train, right? So we have a vehicle undercarriage examiner, which has cameras, and we have to supply light to the image. And it's a lot of light because of the speed. You mentioned it's high speed. It's what we call track speed. It's normal speed, whatever the freight railroad is running at. And we also service passenger railroads as well. The main one here in North America, as you imagine what that is, we have to do that at 125 miles an hour. So it's a little challenging. So a lot of our technology goes into the recording of images and the supplying light that allows us to do that. So that's what all that technology is. The final piece of, the final big piece of hardware there has to do with another one of our patents called the linear speed system. And it allows us to synchronize those cameras with the speed of the moving train in very granular fashion. It's very important to do that because otherwise you would get images that would be squashed or they would be very large. And, so we make it very, very real time. So that's the hardware. And as far as what it does, it's kind of simple. That whole solution only does three things. And so it's kind of a trick answer for you, right? It does acquisition, it does analysis, and it does presentation. So honestly, everybody in our office should be working on one of those three things. If they're not, we have to question why they're there to begin with. So it's only those three things that it actually does. And I can get into more detail on each of those if you like.
Oh, we will, trust me. So let's get into what all the system can see, beginning with the different modules, and then we'll get into AI detections after that. Because this is just so cool. And anyone can go to your website and check this out. We'll give you your website link on the podcast notes and things like that too, so they can check this out. We'll talk more about your website at the end as well. But there's all these modules, and you mentioned some of it earlier, how they stitch together, and it is so neat. So you've got the undercarriage view module, you have the side truck panorama module, you have the truck obliques module. So I didn't know trucks had obliques. Now, for listeners that aren't familiar with trucks, so if you're not a railroad person, a truck set is literally the wheels, the side frames that hold the wheels, and the springs for the cushioning and everything together. in one set. So it's not a truck like a vehicle. It's just what we happen to call that whole entire set with the wheels. And then there's an overhead module. And then there's this, I thought was really neat, especially things that we've seen happen with derailments. You've got a thermal wheel module, which I think is incredibly valuable. Everything is, but that really got my attention. So I don't know if you want to go through each one by one, how you would like to do this, but let's start with the undercarriage module and the value that brings and what all it can see.
Yeah, the vehicle undercarriage module, as you can imagine, I've always maintained that it was probably the most valuable perspective. You're calling modules, and we call them modules as well, but it gives you a perspective, and I think it's one of the most valuable to the railroad customer and to the mechanical railcar inspector. Think about it. You've inspected rail cars, and I don't know how far under a rail car you had to go to inspect it. But that view allows you to see a missing cotter pin. It allows you to see bent brake beam. It allows you to see so many things. And some of them obviously are important enough. Some of those mechanics are important enough that if they're not maintained properly or if it's broken, it could lead to a catastrophic situation like a derailment. So obviously now we take our cues from regulations like FRA and things like that. We take our cues from the same thing that the mechanical railcar inspectors take them, right? And so that's what we're looking for mostly. So that perspective covers a very large double-digit percentage of what is in the FRA manual as far as the inspection points are concerned, right? And so we think it's an extremely valuable, and it's been in use since the very first Railcar Inspection Portal.
Very good. And so let's talk about the side truck panorama module. And maybe the difference between that and the truck obliques module.
Yeah, I think it's a good distinction to talk about because a lot of our customers that we're talking to, they don't know the difference right away. And of course, it becomes very apparent when you see some of these things, right? So remember what I said about the line scan camera, right? That's what gives us our straight on perpendicular to the railcar inspection to whatever surface we're talking about. So the side truck panorama is basically a lower side panorama that's focused on the trucks, right? It does take images of the rest of the rail car as well, because you got the scanning going on, right, from end to end. But it's used mostly by the railcar inspector to find those inspection points that might have something going on with the truck that's, with one of the wheels, for example. I'm going to say cracked wheel, but more importantly, the bolts, a missing bolt, things like that on the cap, for example. So looking at those things. And now an oblique it's basically a camera, a regular camera, not a line scan camera. It takes a regular photo, kind of like your iPhone, maybe it's a little more high resolution, but it's your iPhone. And it's set off at an angle. And the reason that's used is because it gives you a little more depth perception. Okay, it's not a 3D camera or anything like that, but it gives you a little more depth perception because it allows you to see exactly what you're looking at a slight angle. So it allows you to see height of things where the straight on perpendicular view isn't really good for that. Those two together are fantastic for inspecting things like trucks, which are very detailed. You're looking at springs and you're looking at all kinds of things there that the railcar inspector is interested in. So it allows using both of them together is perfect for that.
And going back to the undercarriage view, I thought I saw a note in your system that said you could even see if the bottom outlet valve cap was missing.
Yeah, you mean like on a
tank car?
You mean for yeah, absolutely. You can. Now remember, on tank cars, we also have the top camera too that gives you a view of the hatches, whether they're open and things like that. So there's, I could speak more eloquently if I were one of our railcar inspectors. We could talk about those guys a little later on, hopefully.
That's okay. Nobody wants to talk about that. Yeah. Come on now.
Yeah.
No, and you asked earlier if I ever got underneath the car or how far I had to get underneath the car. And of course, we locked out, tagged out, and blue flagged the track first and then got up underneath there. But and in even repairing them, I had to climb up around underneath stuff like that. To weld on things. So I have been contorted in all different directions trying to inspect rail cars, which is why this is so interesting to me. And be able to get this level of detail at high speed is truly unreal. So we talked about the overhead module a bit. So you can see like you said, a hatch cover on a hopper car is open, or that it's been tampered with. You could probably even see if seals were broken. I would imagine if you can see cotter keys, you can see seals that are broken, which is really, I think, very important for tamper reasons. You want to make sure your car hasn't been tampered with. And then the next one, the one I mentioned earlier that was really interesting to me is the thermal wheel module. So tell us a little bit about how that works.
So, well, we all know how, hot box detectors work, right? This is a little bit different. It's part of the Railcar Inspection Portal. It's another module you can add to it. It doesn't work exactly the same way. It is infrared. It does take a thermal image, and it does heat mapping. And I'm sure that everyone has seen a thermal image with the white hot parts and goes red. The interesting thing about it is it maps the entire surface of the image. So you see the wheel rim, and not only the hub itself, but you see the wheel rim and everything else. And so you can pick out different pieces that might be hotter. What's really interesting, though, when you compare it, for example, to hot box detectors, this one's a little more comprehensive because remember what I said in the beginning, we're looking at the entire rail car. So as we're doing this analysis and as you're seeing these thermal wheel images, you can tell, a human can tell, for example, that one wheel is different than the other, right? It's either too hot, too cold. That tells you something's going on with the wheel. The AI that we employ, that I'm sure we're going to talk about later, it can tell the same thing. So it can alert you that there's a problem. So once again, it's the comprehensiveness that we employ inside some of these detections and visualization that really helps our railcar mechanic users do their jobs easy.
And you read my mind because we're getting into AI detection next. So we talked about how it can detect a missing bottom outlet valve cap, which is extremely important. Probably could even tell if the handle was open for the valve, and leaks. I would guess it could probably see if there's a leak. Open hatch covers we talked about, manway lids, boxcar doors, which is very important to see if anything's been tampered with. The wheels, roller bearings. There was pictures on your website of it identifying roller bearings that were missing one thing or another. Manway, let's see, we were talking about manway lids. I'm sorry. Trucks, axles, draft gear defects. I was really surprised that you can detect the draft gear defects, and even people riding on the train. So that is probably something a lot of folks don't think about, but especially with hopper cars, there's an area on the slope sheets at the ends of the hopper cars where people can create a little living area, honest to God. And we've seen it. We've seen cars come into shops before with blankets and pillows and other things that, shouldn't be there, that are dangerous. So you've got to be really careful when inspecting these things sometimes. But you can see all of that. And from a security standpoint alone, I think that's extremely important. So you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about your AI aspect and how it can detect all these things?
Yeah, absolutely. So up to this point, we've talked about visualization, right? It helps the rail car mechanics see what they normally wouldn't be able to see, and so they can kind of do inspections. What we do with our artificial intelligence, which is basically supervised machine learning, is we're building models for these, right? What we do with that is we assist the mechanical rail car inspector do their inspection by kind of overlaying these AI results onto what they're looking at, right? So we could say, basically, it's like, hey, you might want to take a look at this wheel over here, or you might want to take a look at this, this draft gears might not be exactly right. You might want to give that a second look. And so that's how they use that, right? It alerts them that there's somewhere to look. We've found, a broken wheel flange, for example. And that's something that's very important to the rail car mechanic. Now we have 65, I believe we're up to 65 or 67 maybe, models that are currently in production. So once again, the bulk of those are really concentrated on what the FRA considered here in North America, in the US, what the FRA considers inspection kind of points of interest, for inspection. Let's call them rules, if you will. And then same thing for Canada. We have a lot, some railcar inspection portals in Canada. We deal with the same thing, roughly the same thing from Transport Canada. So they kind of overlay. It's the same, it's the same mechanics. So they're kind of looking for the same thing.
Yeah.
But that's where the AI comes in. And that's how it kind of works. It kind of evens out the system, and it gives you kind of a check and a balance.
No, that's great. And so who actually gets this information? Is it the railroad? Is it the car owner? Is it a repair provider, like a third party? Who actually is this information sent to?
So with the traditional Railcar Inspection Portal, where the hardware, we talked about the trackside edge data center and all the cameras and lighting and all that cool stuff. In I think you mentioned a big metal building, right? All that stuff is it's located on a railroad. So it's who owns and operates the railroad. For one of the Class 1 railroads, for example, would own that Railcar Inspection Portal, and of course they would get the data. We worked very hard. DuosTech worked very hard over the past 3 or 4 years to employ something we call basically the Railcar Inspection Portal subscription business, right? Because we realized that there were some stakeholders in the industry that really weren't getting that information, and it could be helpful, right? It could be very, very helpful. So, for example, you mentioned railcar owners and lessors and things like that, folks that are kind of interested. Not only that, but railcar manufacturers that we're working with now too, that are doing kind of deep analysis on some things that they may want to fix in the future, and they're doing predictive analytics based on the information that we provide. So it's making all around the industry a little better, right? It's from a safety standpoint, it's making it a little better. We did have to work very, very hard at that because, well, as you know, I mean, it's data, right? And everybody is worried and concerned about data ownership. But obviously, the data is owned by the railroads that own the railcar inspection portals that produce the data. But we worked with those folks, and they're very happy now to produce this and be able to make this available to those other stakeholders as well, under agreements, of course. You can't go to the website and get all that information, but under agreements, they make that available, and we think that's very good. It's a good prospect also for short lines to be able to get some of that data where those rail cars are kind of transiting onto their system in some cases.
Well, and I imagine if somebody wanted to, that owned a rail car repair facility, let's say a large one, that took in a lot of cars per month, they could even put something like this, on the inbound track if they wanted to, I suppose, and that would serve the same purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're working with a very large one right now, exactly for that purpose. And so we anticipate probably by middle of next year, we'll have 7 of those specific railcar inspection portals for that purpose. And by the way, that I don't want to say it's easy, but it's a little bit different because when we talk about track speed, our challenge there is that, they got to go at least 3 miles an hour. And sometimes that's challenging in those situations, getting them into the maintenance facility.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And so speaking from a repair standpoint, well, I guess it would work with the railroad as well, right? But let's say it's going into a repair location, a third-party repair location, and it's being utilized for inspection there. Can the system currently create an AAR BRC estimate, a billing repair car estimate?
No, it cannot. So what we've done traditionally, with our railroad customers, with our Class 1 customers especially, is we have a comprehensive, it's called an API, which is an application programming interface. We have a comprehensive API that exchanges that information with the railroads already in place back-end system. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel necessarily, right? So if there's facilities in place to do that, we just let the customer handle that data the way they normally do, right? Because we don't want to introduce unnecessary change. But the customers really do like the way it integrates with the back-end system, and they use that integration for lots of different things.
Yeah, I would imagine so. But it's got to make their life a whole lot easier. Can you go through what the overall process flow looks like from the time a defect is noticed moving forward?
Sure. So, I mean, we'll go all the way. We call it a train scan, right? The train scan begins, obviously, when the train enters the portal. All those lights fire up, the cameras fire up, and they continue until the last car of the train is exiting the portal. We have a lot of different sensors along the track. We know when the train's there, when it's not, how fast it's going, and so forth. So we're acquiring that data as soon as the train comes in. The data is obviously we know what the rail car is because we read the AEI tags on both sides. We associate that with some container data from Umler, for example, not container data, but rail car data. And we kind of pull all that information together in the background while we're acquiring those high resolution images, and we tie it all together. And then each railcar now has its metadata and its data and its high resolution data. So there's this nice package of data that's right for what we call detection. It enters our detection phase, right? And because of the wonderful folks at RailLink and the use of Umler, we're able to determine the type of railcar that we're talking about. So what that means is I don't have to look for a missing tank cap on a boxcar. And I know that sounds really weird, but years ago when AI started out, that's exactly what was happening. Every image was being sent to what we call an inference server and spinning up a lot of GPU processing power and basically time and money to identify things that couldn't possibly be there. So we've gotten a little more sophisticated about that. So we go ahead and we do those detections, and when we detect something, we send it back to. When I say back to the system, I actually mean back to the main system, which is our Railcar Inspection Portal, and that's where it kind of sits there with an alert, so that the railcar mechanic can see it. Now, there's other things we do with that information too. We have a notification system, right? An enhanced notification system, which means if there's something wrong, you can get notified immediately via email, via text, or through another API that can then alert your system and do something with it that you would normally do. And we've been asked on several occasions, hey, if it's serious enough, can you stop a train? Well, we can't. We don't stop the train, but the railroad system is certainly capable of talking to the dispatch systems and talking and stopping the train because they receive this indication from our system. So again, we're the data collector. We want to provide actionable intelligence, and then let the railroads use it how they see fit.
And that was actually one of my next questions is if it's a major defect, like a wheel or a roller bearing, God forbid, the system can then alert the railroad. Okay. So immediately, essentially, if it notices something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about that time real quick too, because we're the only player in history, or I'm sorry, we're the only player in the industry that gives you those results, and it gives our customers the results within 60 seconds of detection. It takes about 60 seconds to detect something after it's acquired. And the reason we do that, remember we were talking about edge data centers? All these things are tied together, right? We have a trackside data center. All that processing is happening at trackside. So we're not backhauling that information to a cloud service provider like, any one of them. That takes time, right? There's latency involved. We don't have the luxury of time because that actionable intelligence is only actionable if you get it in a timely manner, right? So that's really what that's the difference. Yes, so the railroad can react to that within about 65 seconds.
Wow, that is amazing. And I think you already mentioned this as well, but can the system access Umler data to flag cars with early warnings, testing that's overdue, things of that nature?
Yeah, so we get several fields, from the Umler data, and we get a lot of measurement data because we use that with our linear speed sensor system to be able to figure out how big the overhang is and things like that, because we're trying to center a coupler. Remember, we do everything, it's railcar based, so we do something called car cutting, and we cut it basically dead center coupler. So one car, next car, next car. So it takes a little math to do that. It takes a little detection to do that, and some other things. And so we rely on that information for that. The other reason that I mentioned before that we use that Umler data is to identify the car type. So we're looking at UMET and some of the other fields there that help us identify exactly what kind of car or locomotive it is. But beyond that, we don't really subscribe to the history data for the car. And the other thing that we've been asked that we really don't we've talked to the folks there about the possibility of putting some of these things that we recognize about the rail car in. The problem with that is, remember, we're collecting data, but we don't have access to the railroad's actual maintenance system. Other than the API that sends information, we don't receive information from it. So basically, I could tell you that I had a bent brake beam that I noticed, right? But I don't know when it's been repaired, for example, right? So there's nothing we could really kind of put in the Umler data that would help. But receiving it, yeah, those are the two reasons that we get data out of the Umler system.
And on the customer side, they can create a file, I suppose, of a history of these cars as well. Can they do that?
Yeah, they absolutely do. A lot of our customers, by the way, it's not just us, all of the Class 1 railroads and even the high-speed passenger railroad that we're talking about, they're all doing predictive analytics. And they're all leveraging AI to a great degree. And by the way, it's to all of our benefit. It makes for safer railroads. It makes for more efficient railroads. So it's a win-win all the way around. But they really are doubling down on technology in general and AI specifically to kind of help out in some of these situations.
Yeah, as long as we don't see a locomotive turn into a Decepticon or something at some point, I think we'll be okay. Yeah. Which is probably the fear of some people. Well, so you mentioned earlier how fast the train can go and still be inspected by this system, which is truly jaw-dropping. So you mentioned 125 miles an hour. So even at 125 miles an hour, it can inspect. Now, I thought it was interesting that earlier you also said if it goes too slow, that's a challenge. It has to be at least 3 miles an hour, which makes sense. So because the building doesn't move, so the car has to in order for it to be seen, yes. Which makes total sense. Yeah. So minimum of 3 miles an hour, maximum of 125 miles an hour, you can see whatever it needs to see.
Yeah, and currently those are our systems. Those are the minimums and the maximums. We are talking to some railroads in other countries that they have trains that go faster, and we have figured out how to do that, and we have not deployed there yet, but we're looking forward to it.
That's really neat. I can't wait to hear more about that. And they are talking about a bullet train from Houston to Dallas. We'll see if that ever comes to fruition. I know that we've had a lot of back and forth on that. Amtrak took it over, and I think that maybe the funding got pulled earlier this year. So we'll see where that all ends up. But if someday it happens, I will ride on it at least once just to check it out.
Absolutely. And keep your eye on our project with Amtrak in Secaucus, New Jersey. Northeast corridor there. So it's a lot of folks are looking at that, and there's been construction delays and things like that, which are normal for that size of project. But we're really excited. We're hoping by first quarter in 2026 we'll be able to turn that puppy on, and it'll be really cool.
That would be very great. Cool. Yeah, it's not too far away anymore. This year is flying by. So realistically, percentage-wise, in your opinion, that's all I'm asking is your opinion. How accurate is the system versus a human performing the same type of inspection?
I love that question, right? Accuracy is measured by, it's different. You got, how many false positives, how many false negatives, and all those other wonderful things. What AI folks, and myself included, we look at something called recall. And that's the closest thing to what you and I consider to be real accuracy, right? And the way we test for recall is, I don't know if I mentioned this, but we have experienced railcar mechanics working in our company, right? Now, what you have to understand is we don't own rail cars. We don't manufacture rail cars. We don't own an inch of track. But we have mechanical railcar inspectors working in our technology company. The reason we do that is we use them as the subject matter expert, because who better to kind of figure out what it is that we need to do to create the solution. So the other thing that they do is they kind of test routinely with our AI, because we're looking for what is our accuracy. And by the way, the accuracy doesn't always, you can't set it and forget it, right? It has to be maintained. So they're constantly doing these tests, and they're testing for recall. And what's really cool is the way they do it is they use our visualization part of the system. They just basically inspect a train from beginning to end, like you did, except they're using, visualization, but they're not being aided with the AI. In the meantime, all of the artificial intelligence models have done the same train. And so then we have the two results and we look at them side by side and say, well, the railcar mechanic found this, but the AI missed it. What do we need to do? How did we screw up? So that's a routine that happens over and over again. Remember, I said it was supervised learning is the AI training that we use. It's supervised learning. So we like to keep the accuracy at 95% or higher, right? That's where it is. If it falls below 95%, it's put on what we call a HITL probationary kind of deal, where it's still in production, but all of its results are funneled to a human before it's sent back to the system, right? So we have a team of folks working in Jacksonville that actually look at those things on occasion, and they will make the final determination. And that's if that threshold is below 95%.
Which is pretty darn good, really. And there's always going to be unseen damage, whether it's a human looking at it or the AI looking at it. There's certain things you just can't see, like a follower block or something inside of a draft gear, right? Until you start taking it apart.
That's right.
So I think that's understandable. So is there anything about the system that I've missed that you would want to touch on for our audience?
Yeah, well, let's see. We talked about the challenges of lighting. We talked about the different kinds of cameras that we use. I think, and we also talked about subscriptions, right? And so I think those were the pretty big things. We could talk about some improvements that are coming around the bend that I want you folks to keep looking for from us. It goes back to lighting, where we have a patent on laser illumination for that system now, which is huge for us because it's easier to maintain and it gives us a better result. Just a lot of different advancements. Obviously, we're going to be increasing our AI portfolio, and we're working with some agencies for. You mentioned the riders. The riders that are on the train that aren't supposed to be. We see some more reports, kind of automated generated reports coming out of that, going different places. So, there's a lot to the system, but I think we covered a lot actually.
Well, good. I think so too. And if there's a specific takeaway you'd like our audience to have from this episode, what would it be? Yeah,
I think, earlier I mentioned that a lot of what we do feels like from the folks that produce it, right? From the folks that actually develop the system and the railcar mechanics that make sure that it works right. We're talking about all the software developers and engineers all together, all in one building. What's interesting, what keeps them going actually is the idea that it makes for a safer rail network. I mean, that's the most critical core piece to this. And so the idea that it's a win-win-win for so many folks, there's only so many different types of products you can create that you could honestly say that. And so I think I think that's what the takeaway is. We're doing something to increase safety all the way around for lots of that affect lots of different stakeholders, including you and I.
And this probably dovetails right into that answer, which is, what is your favorite part about what you do with Duos Technologies?
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, look, like I said, when we have a solution that just feels right, I think that's it makes it worthwhile going to work every day, right? But the other things it's the technology itself for me personally. When I came here about 5 years ago, I was from North Carolina originally, and I was kind of down visiting CSX actually, and I stopped by DuosTech, and I saw the Railcar Inspection Portal, and I said, "Wow, I got to be here. I can't leave." So I've been here ever since, and it's been fantastic. It's the technology. It does what it says it's supposed to do. And it's exciting to be a part of that.
Yeah, I would imagine so. So what else? Let's see. Well, actually, before I get to that, what other events might you be at this year that you'd like our audience to know about?
We have a commercial team, and unfortunately, I mean, they go to all the major events, the ones that we all know about. And I know that we were at a few in the beginning of the year as well. I'm not going to be at too many of them. I think in November, I think is the one that the Rail Trends, I think I'll be there. I've tried to not go to as many of those as I've been in the past, unless there's a speaking engagement, and then I'll go, if it's like technical. But I'm trying to stay in my lane as much as possible. Because we got commercial folks, and I want commercial folks to do commercial things, and I got this development schedule that I want to meet, and hopefully we'll meet together and really talk about those things. But yeah, I would have to check back with commercial to see which ones they're going to.
No worries, and they can probably find that on the website as well, I would imagine. So for future upcoming events,
if it's not, I'll make sure that it's published there. Yeah,
there you go. Sounds good. And also LinkedIn, probably they could probably follow on LinkedIn, I would imagine as well. Which is where,
yeah, we have a pretty good marketing team. Whenever something's coming up, they announce it. So
very good. Well, believe it or not, Jeff, our hour is up already. So is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience before we go?
No, actually, I'm good. I want everybody to, have a great Memorial Day.
Yeah, absolutely. I never had a guest at a loss for words, so that's great. I mean, you've exhausted everything on us, which we're looking forward to our audience reaction, because it's a lot of good stuff. And again, I think it's really amazing what y'all have done. I'm looking forward to seeing it in action myself, because I know that there's videos online that we can kind of see how it works. And you also offer, I believe you offer online like webinars and things, right, to show people that are interested.
Absolutely. And they'll include demos. You can see an actual system with actual trains in real time, which is really cool.
That is really cool. I'll have to check that out too. Okay. So where can people reach Duos Technologies? How can they get a hold of you all, commercial or otherwise, if they have questions?
The easiest way is just to go to www.duostech.com. It's our website. It's DUOSTECH.com. Everything you need is right there. Like you said, it does give you some information about the Railcar Inspection Portal. There's a contact phone number there. There's a contact page there. Certainly, you can fill out a contact form, and we'd be happy to have someone get back to you and schedule one of those demos, or just provide some information. We love talking about what we do, so it's not hard to get some words out of us.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And would you like to join us again on a future episode?
Absolutely. Thank you. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
Very good. And so I have to giggle a little bit. So if you're watching on video, folks, on the YouTube channel, you could see as the sun was starting to go down, it looked like Jeff had a halo for a while there. So it was very angelic of you.
That was by design.
I figured it was. You positioned yourself well. Well, very good. Well, it's been amazing having you on. You've really taught us a bunch. It was really neat learning about the system and about Duos, and how far things have come since my days of driving a Flintstone mobile and etching stuff into stone. Literally was about how it was. So really, really wonderful having you. We'll look forward to having you on again.
Thanks, Don. I appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. And before you go, we're going to jump into my 2 cents. So we've mentioned several times on the podcast that the railroad industry, with a failure rate of 0.0001%, is the safest way to transport goods in the U.S. But we should always desire to improve our safety, and embracing new technology, including AI, is a part of that. So when our safety improves, it can also improve our security, which we talked about today, our asset downtime, which is very important to those that are leasing cars, and our overall costs, while also moving us into the future. We should always be willing to be moving forward. And that's my 2 cents. So I want to touch on PHMSA just really quick. So I know we've talked about the HM 265. So the comment period on HM 265 ended April 28th. And my good friend, Amon Patrick, decided to pursue new ventures. So he is no longer at PHMSA. So there is someone that is taking over his responsibility. So I will get with them here in the next week or so, and I'll see if we can get an update on HM 265, which again is the possibility of a ruling where it's taken away sole responsibility of the certificates of construction for tank cars from the AR. They can still do it, but they have to be a certified engineer through PHMSA. So they won't be the only ones doing it anymore. There'll be others that can do it as well. You and I could do it if you're engineers and you're properly trained through PHMSA. So I will get you some information on that for our next episode. I also wanted to touch on next episode. We're going to launch our 3rd annual Boots for Troops Honor Our Heroes nominees for the award for 2025. So if you followed us the last couple of seasons, this is now season 3. We did an Honor Our Heroes award that we've given away twice. It's a care package. It's a really neat care package sponsored by Boots for Troops. So they let me go in there. And again, full transparency, I am a chairman with Boots for Troops. We send care packages to our troops all over the world. And we also do scholarship programs for spouses, service dog training for our veterans, travel assistance programs. So this is a care package for our veterans in the railroad industry, which is amazing. I've been able to pack them myself. It's a lot of fun to do that. And usually they're sent right around Christmas time. So they arrive just in time for Christmas, give you some more goodies for the holidays. So we'll start this next month with our episode next month, and then we'll end the drawing, or we'll end the nominations and do the drawing in our September episode. So it'll give everybody a chance to submit some names. And so let me just please literally beg you to please start thinking now about who you want to submit. So my understanding and the data that I've seen, that we have 700,000 people in the transportation industry, of which rail is a big part of that. And I've been told through the stats that I've looked at, data I've looked at, that it's a 2-to-1 ratio of veterans to non-veterans in rail. So there's plenty of veterans out there you can nominate. And it's not complicated, guys. I'll tell you all about it next time with the link and all that kind of stuff, but please start thinking about a veteran you would like to nominate now and why they're a hero to you. They just have to be a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces, U.S. Armed Forces veteran in the rail industry. Any aspect of the rail industry, doesn't have to be a railroader. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox for now. We'll talk more about that next episode. So I want to finish by, again, recognizing our anchor sponsor, the Revolution Rail Group. So we are a consulting and brokering firm in the railcar industry. So if you're looking for any kind of consulting whatsoever, even something I haven't thought of yet, still reach out to us. So whether it's merger and acquisition consulting, process flow analysis, market analysis, we can help you with that. We can also help you with brokering, so buying, selling, leasing, and subleasing of rail cars. You can reach out to us today, 844-455-3434, or info@therevolutionrailgroup.com. You can also check out our full suite of services on our website at therevolutionrailgroup.com. And with that, I say happy Memorial Day. God bless. Make it a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on the American Railroading Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. And if you have a topic you'd like us to cover on a future episode or want to support or sponsor the show, please visit our website at americanrailroading.net. Thanks again for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on the American Railroading Podcast.